Privilege to come here and speak to some of the finest leaders in our industry. What I am going to talk about today is something very consistent with what you've been hearing from the last two presenters. And except that I'll probably bring in a little bit of an infrastructure flavor to what I'm going to talk about, particularly to storage. So this is what I'm going to talk about. Actually, can't see the screen. Yeah, so next 5 years, IT infrastructure revolution. Some of that is going to be very consistent with what you heard in the previous presentations. Also going to talk about how do you prepare for sustainable growth given the background that we have today. Finally, IT is not only about technology. I think it's increasingly becoming more about economics. So how do we master the IT economics equation? And last but not the least, IT is somebody said earlier, it's not supporting business anymore. It's an integral part of business. So how does IT respond to business needs faster? So let's get started. Let's take a look at the 5-year IT infrastructure revolution. But before that, let's see the context of where we are, what exactly is happening to your environment, to your data center. I've spent like close to almost 2 decades in the storage industry, and I used to get very excited when I used to hear these terms. After petabyte, I just started completely dissociating myself with this term because I couldn't just keep track of what's the next order of magnitude would be called. So I don't know what it is called. I have something called yottabyte. I don't know what that means, but it's a number with a huge number of zeros behind a 1, right? And that's pretty much what's happening to our industry. This kind of a data growth is being driven by several factors. First is your business data itself, the structured data stored in your ERP, your databases. That's growing by leaps and bounds, essentially because you are adopting a lot of business process automation. For every aspect of your business, you're trying to automate it using certain applications. It's generating a lot of data, and that in turn contributes to all these petabytes, zettabytes, and yottabytes. However, a few things have changed over the last decade or so. Networks, both your corporate networks as well as social networks, are contributing to a significantly large amount of data. Several orders of magnitude get added because of this phenomenon that all of us witness and participate in. The next one is the huge proliferation of personal devices. Right, so most of you are thinking about BYOD projects. Some of you have already embarked on it. It's something that is here to stay, right? People are using different kind of smartphones, different kind of gadgets. That's contributing to a huge amount of data growth. And the last is audio and video as a medium. So it's no longer text, it's no longer databases, but a huge amount of content is being generated in the form of audio and video, which in turn adds up to your data growth and data management challenges. So data growth is where the problem really starts, but it has got a lot of corollary challenges, throws up a lot of corollary challenges. So as per Gartner, by 2015, you would see a 800% growth in the size of data which you are managing in your environment. That's humongous. That's crazy. So the corollary problems which this kind of a data growth gives offshoot to are system performance and scalability. The traditional way we have designed systems and architectures are going to be grossly inadequate to cater to the needs of this magnitude of data growth. So you need to take a fresh look at the architectures being used in your data centers and see how it could be optimized, how it could be architected to cater to this kind of a change. Network congestion and connectivity. All that data needs to reach end users. All that data needs to get stored in some place, right? And very often the data can be stored in a distributed fashion. It could get stored in one consolidated data center. But it needs to reach the end users, and the only way it can reach the end user is over networks. And this size of a data has the potential to really clog up the networks. So need to figure out ways, tools, means, solutions to overcome these problems and solutions. And last but not the least, this kind of a data also needs to be backed up, restored, and disaster recovery. You heard in the E&Y survey report, disaster recovery has come back as one of the top priority for CIOs today, right? So compounded by the problem that you have in terms of data growth. All right, so let's take a look at some of the predictions. Sneak peek into some of the things related to infrastructure that is going to happen. Since I come from the storage industry, I start with storage. So we're going to see an increased proliferation of two key technologies in terms of storage. Storage is not the most glamorous or the most exciting piece in your data center. However, it is the most critical piece simply because all organizations are today information-driven organizations, and all information sits on storage, right? So that makes it critical to your business. Two technologies, flash, right? The same flash that we use on your cell phone, that you use in your cameras, is changing the way storage is architected and storage is designed in today's context. SATA disk drives, the same disk drives that you have been using for a long time on your laptops, older laptops. I mean, if you're using a Mac these days, you're using flash. But those cheap, slow hard drives are probably going to be the way future data is going to get stored. All the great technology in terms of disk that we saw evolve over the last couple of decades in terms of fiber channels, SAS, all that is going to go away. So we are no longer going to have high-performance fiber channel disk drives or 10, 15K RPM disk drives in the future. Next one is Ether, the network, right? So 10 gigabit network, that's the future of networking. The 10 gigabit network is probably going to be the de facto standard in your data center. It's also going to be the de facto networking standard for storage. We're also going to see convergence of 10 gigabit network in blade servers, which is going to bring together the server data and the storage data. And lastly, if you have a large data center, you'll probably be a little slow to adopt 10 gigabit because you've got existing investment, significant investment in the existing technology. So you're going to live with a mix and match of fiber channel based technology for your storage networks and gigabit or Ethernet technology for your public networks. So the next one is servers, right? So obviously we talked about impact on storage, impact on network, and impact on server technology is the next one. Virtualization has seen very prolific adoption in our industry, simply because I think the benefits are very easy to understand and comprehend. And most of you have actually realized a huge amount of benefit by adopting virtualization. But these numbers that you see on the slide are staggering. 58 million virtual machines are going to get deployed this year. That's going to take some doing. Virtual machines, with the set of benefits that they bring to the table, they also introduce a new set of challenges, a new set of problems. The way you back up your virtual machines is very different from the way you back up your traditional data. The way you manage your virtual machines, the way you provision your virtual machines is very different from the way you have done things in the past. Going to throw up a huge amount of challenges. For the server vendor, the good news is that this is going to drive a lot of blade server business. And in case you are making plans, you're making budgetary plans, you probably should provision a little extra for blade servers. I'm not a vested party, we don't sell blade servers. Application consolidation and rationalization, all right, this is a big driver. I'm sure most of you are evaluating and thinking on those lines. Business agility depends on that. You need to somewhere draw the line and consolidate which are the most critical application and get rid of those smaller applications which tend to mushroom if you're running an IT organization over an extended period of time. The next one is people and data center, right? So this is critical. 50% of the data centers are going to add increased capacity, and 30% organizations are going to build new data centers, right? And that's a given. So if you are thinking about your current data center capacity, whether it's going to be adequate and is going to last you for your future needs, you may need to take a fresh look at it again because it may be inadequate. It's inadequate for most of the people. And last but not the least, people and accountability related changes. So CIOs are probably going to be evaluated based on the organization's revenue which can be attached to IT. That's a new one. IT has always been a business service provider. But here we're looking at a possibility where IT leaders, their performance will get tagged to the revenue that IT drives. And also, the one of the key metrics which will be used to evaluate the performance of businesses, organizations, is how effectively they manage their data. Right, so that was just to set a background. Some predictions, you've been hearing about that for the last hour or so, right? And what I talked about would have been very consistent with what you heard in the past, except a couple of pieces around infrastructure. So how do you, given that background, how do you prepare your organization for sustainable growth? What are the fundamental changes that we can make to arrest some of the data growth that we saw in one of the earlier slides? So starting off with, I mean, if you just think about your own IT budget, right? It's probably in line with what you see on this chart here. Not going to be very different, right? If any of you are getting a big hike in your IT budget, please let me know about it. I'll ensure that my team comes and talks to you tomorrow. However, the reality is that most of your IT budgets are not going to grow at a great pace, and that's another revelation that came out from the E&Y study. I think the focus is back on cost optimization. The challenge is